Tonight, perhaps the house feels quieter than it used to. The rooms that once carried laughter now rest in silence. Bedrooms remain empty. Family photographs sit gently in their frames, holding memories of seasons that passed more quickly than expected. Children have grown, built lives far away, and friends who once shared holidays and long conversations are now with the Lord. And somewhere deep inside, there may be a question you rarely speak aloud. What happens if the years ahead become even quieter? What if illness comes? What if strength fades? What if one day no one calls anymore? Perhaps you have wondered what it means to grow older while feeling unseen. Perhaps you have carried a fear that few people ever admit. The fear of becoming forgotten. The fear of facing difficult days without someone nearby. The fear of leaving this world with no hand to hold. And maybe tonight feels heavier because you have spent so many years being strong for everyone else. You cared for family. You worked hard. You stayed faithful. You showed up when others needed you. But perhaps very few people have asked how your own heart has been feeling lately. And if that quiet ache has followed you into this evening, you do not have to hide it here, because Jesus sees what others cannot always see. He knows the silent rooms. He knows the tears that arrive after everyone else has gone to sleep. And before you carry that fear any further tonight, Jesus wants you to know something very gentle and very important. You have never been forgotten, and you never will be. There is a tenderness in knowing that the one who understands you most deeply is also the one who has never walked away. Jesus knows what it feels like to sit in the quiet while others sleep. He knows the long night hours when thoughts become heavier and the heart feels more vulnerable than it does during the day. He remembers the garden when he prayed beneath the dark sky, carrying sorrow that words could barely contain. The disciples he loved rested nearby, yet they could not stay awake beside him. In one of his most difficult moments, he experienced the loneliness of being emotionally unseen, and perhaps that changes something for you tonight, because Jesus does not look upon your loneliness as a distant observer. He recognizes it. He has felt the ache of waiting for comfort that did not come. He has known what it means to be misunderstood, to be left alone with tears no one noticed, to carry burdens quietly, and maybe that is why his presence feels so gentle. There is no judgment in his voice, no disappointment, no hurry, only compassion. Perhaps you can imagine him sitting beside you now, in the soft light of this quiet evening. Nothing dramatic, nothing overwhelming, simply a patient presence close enough for your weary heart to rest. He is not asking you to explain yourself. He already knows. He knows the nights you smiled for others while carrying sadness within. He knows the prayers whispered into pillows. He knows the worries that surface when the world grows still. And even now, as the room remains peaceful and your breathing begins to slow, Jesus stays near, not for a moment, not for a season, but faithfully, lovingly, completely. And perhaps the loneliness you feel tonight is not only about the future, but about wounds that have been quietly accumulating for many years, for a long time. You may have carried those wounds without ever giving yourself permission to acknowledge how deeply they affected you. Life asked much of you. There were responsibilities to meet, people to care for, problems to solve, and expectations to fulfill. So you kept moving forward. You remained dependable. You stayed strong because others depended on your strength. And somewhere along the way, your own heart learned to become quiet. Perhaps there were goodbyes that never fully healed, a spouse whose absence still lingers in unexpected moments, children who grew distant in ways you never imagined, relationships that changed without explanation, dreams that slowly slipped away as the years unfolded. Perhaps retirement brought not only rest, but questions about purpose. Perhaps after decades of serving others, you wondered if anyone still truly sees you. And maybe there have been moments when you feared becoming a burden instead of a blessing. Those feelings can be difficult to speak aloud, yet Jesus already knows every hidden sorrow. He sees the tears that never reached anyone else's eyes. He notices the sighs released in empty rooms. He remembers every sleepless night. Scripture tells us that God keeps count of our wanderings and gathers our tears as something precious. None of them have been ignored. None have been wasted. And perhaps no one ever paused long enough to ask how tired your heart became after carrying so much for so many years. But Jesus asks. He notices. He understands. Even now, in this peaceful night, you do not have to pretend to be stronger than you feel. You do not have to hold everything together, because when old wounds remain untouched, they often become tomorrow's anxieties. And tonight, perhaps your heart is ready to rest from carrying them alone. And perhaps that is why tonight can become something different. Not a night for finding every answer. Not a night for solving every uncertainty that may still linger in your mind, but simply a night for resting, for breathing, for allowing yourself to be cared for. There are worries that can quietly follow us as the years pass. Concerns about health, questions about the future, thoughts about finances, independence, changing routines, and what tomorrow may bring. Perhaps there are fears about becoming dependent on others, perhaps concerns about memory, strength, or the possibility of one day needing more help than you ever imagined. These thoughts can feel especially heavy in the stillness of night, yet Jesus gently reminds us that tomorrow has always belonged to God, and tonight belongs to grace. Tonight belongs to rest. Look around the quiet space where you are. Feel the comfort beneath you. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breathing, the steady beating of your heart, the softness of the blanket, the peaceful darkness surrounding you. You do not have to carry the weight of every future day into this moment. The birds do not worry about the morning before they sleep. The lilies do not struggle to become beautiful. And perhaps your weary soul has permission to stop striving for just a little while. Permission to release the pressure of needing to hold everything together. Permission to trust that God is already present in the days you have not yet reached. Little by little, the anxious thoughts can loosen their grip. The questions do not have to disappear. They simply no longer have to sit upon your shoulders tonight. Perhaps tonight is not the night to solve every problem, but simply the night to place them into stronger hands. And perhaps there is something beautiful that happens when we stop holding on so tightly. For so many years, you may have carried responsibilities that seemed endless. You carried the needs of your family. You carried expectations. You carried disappointments, unanswered prayers, and moments you never expected would become part of your story. And after carrying so much for so long, it is understandable if your heart feels weary. Jesus never asks exhausted people to become stronger before coming to him. Instead, he speaks with the gentleness of someone who understands. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Perhaps tonight you can simply imagine placing what has weighed upon you into his caring hands. The fear of growing older, the loneliness that sometimes appears in quiet moments, the sadness over people you miss, the concerns about your health, the worries about children, grandchildren, and loved ones who live far away, the regrets that still visit your thoughts from time to time, the prayers that remain unanswered, the uncertainty about what lies ahead. You do not have to explain any of it. Jesus already knows. Nothing you carry surprises him. Nothing overwhelms him. Nothing feels too complicated for his heart. Imagine him receiving each burden with patience, not rushing you, not asking you to hurry, simply sitting beside you, listening, understanding, welcoming every concern without judgment. And perhaps, little by little, your hands begin to open, your shoulders become lighter, your breathing becomes slower, your heart discovers that it was never meant to carry every weight alone. And once our hands begin to open, our hearts become ready to remember what God has promised. And perhaps that is where hope quietly begins to return, not because every uncertainty has disappeared, not because every question has been answered, but because God's promises remain steady. Even when life feels uncertain, his faithfulness has never depended upon circumstances. It has never depended upon age, strength, or how many people happen to stand beside us. It rests upon who he is, and he has always been faithful. Perhaps tonight, your heart needs to hear those promises once more, not as distant words written long ago, but as living assurances spoken tenderly to you now. I am with you. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. You do not walk through life by yourself. Even in seasons that feel unfamiliar, even in moments that seem lonely, even in valleys you never expected to enter, the shepherd still walks beside you. Psalm 23 does not promise that we will never encounter difficult places. It reminds us that even through the valley, we are not abandoned, not around it, not beyond it, but through it, together. And perhaps there is comfort in knowing that Jesus has already gone ahead of you into every tomorrow that concerns you tonight. He already sees the days you cannot yet see. He already knows the needs you have not spoken aloud. And He has promised that nothing can separate you from His love. Not distance, not aging, not loss, not sickness, not silence, not even the quiet fears that sometimes awaken in the middle of the night, somewhere deep inside. Your soul has always longed for that kind of certainty, a love that remains, a presence that stays, a hand that never lets go. And when God's promises begin to settle gently into the heart, even painful memories can begin to soften. And perhaps, as your heart grows a little lighter tonight, memories begin to drift quietly into your thoughts. Some memories arrive with warmth, others carry an ache that has remained tender for many years. You may remember younger days filled with hopes and plans that once felt so close, family gatherings around a crowded table, children laughing in another room, holiday traditions that seemed as though they would last forever. Perhaps you remember people whose voices you still miss, a husband or wife whose presence once made a house feel full, parents who offered comfort and guidance, friends who walked beside you through seasons of joy and seasons of hardship, and now their absence can sometimes feel more noticeable in the stillness of night. Maybe there are memories that still bring questions, moments you wish had unfolded differently, conversations left unfinished, dreams that never came to pass, times when you blamed yourself for things that were never entirely yours to carry. Yet even there, Jesus remains gentle. He does not walk through your memories to reopen old wounds. He walks beside you to bring peace where pain has lingered, to sit with the younger version of yourself who tried so hard, who loved deeply, who persevered through disappointments, who kept going despite exhaustion. And perhaps tonight you can see those earlier chapters through kinder eyes. You survived seasons you once thought would break you. You endured losses that seemed impossible. And through every chapter, whether you recognized His presence or not, God was there, quietly sustaining, quietly strengthening, quietly loving. Even in rooms filled with sorrow, even in moments marked by uncertainty, even when hope felt distant, He never stepped away. And as old memories find a place of gentleness and rest, the place where you are tonight can also become a place of blessing. And perhaps, without realizing it, this quiet home has witnessed so much of your story. These walls have held celebrations and tears. They have listened to prayers whispered in difficult seasons and laughter shared during happier days. They have sheltered you through changing years, unexpected losses, and moments of quiet gratitude. And tonight, this familiar place can become more than a house. It can become a sanctuary of peace. Perhaps you can imagine the gentle presence of God resting over every room, over the bedroom where you now lie down to rest, over the hallway that carries memories of footsteps from years gone by, over family photographs that preserve faces you still hold dear in your heart, over empty chairs that remind you of people deeply loved and deeply missed, and over loved ones who may live many miles away tonight. May peace settle over this home like a soft blanket. May every anxious thought grow quieter. May every troubled feeling slowly loosen its hold. May this place be filled with the comfort of knowing that God watches faithfully through every hour of the night. Psalm 91 reminds us that those who dwell in the shelter of the Most High can rest beneath His care, not because life has been without hardship, but because His presence remains constant, steady, protective, near. Perhaps angels stand watch in ways we cannot see. Perhaps heaven is much closer than we imagine. And perhaps, even in a house that sometimes feels too quiet, there is a sacred stillness that speaks of God's loving companionship. Tonight, may this home be wrapped in peace. May its rooms hold gentleness. May its silence become comforting instead of lonely. And as the night grows quieter, Perhaps you can simply allow yourself to rest in the truth that you are deeply loved. And perhaps that truth can simply rest with you now. Without effort, without striving, without needing to understand everything at once. You are deeply loved, not because of what you accomplished, not because of how much you gave, not because you always remained strong. You are loved because you belong to the one who has known you from the very beginning. And even now, in this peaceful hour, Jesus remains near, like a gentle shepherd watching over his flock through the night. He stays attentive to every unspoken need, every hidden concern, every weary corner of your heart. You do not have to keep watch alone anymore. You do not have to prepare yourself for every tomorrow. You do not have to prove your worth. Nothing is required of you in this moment, except to rest. Perhaps your breathing has become a little slower now. Perhaps your shoulders feel a little lighter. Perhaps the worries that seemed so loud earlier have begun to soften in the quiet. And if old fears try to return, you can hear these simple words again. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not facing tomorrow alone. Jesus remains beside you. He remains beside you in the silence. He remains beside you when the phone does not ring. He remains beside you when memories visit unexpectedly. He remains beside you in uncertain seasons. And he remains beside you in the middle of the night. When the world seems still and your heart longs for reassurance, nothing needs to be accomplished tonight. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be carried any longer. You are safely held. You are lovingly seen. You are gently cared for. And as your breathing becomes slower and your heart feels lighter, let us quietly place this night into the hands of Jesus. And now, in this sacred quietness, there is nothing more you need to do. No burden to solve. No answer to find. No expectation to meet. Only this moment. Only this gentle stillness, only the comforting presence of Jesus beside you. Perhaps you can take one slow breath in, and then softly let it go. Allow your heart to settle. Allow your thoughts to become quieter. Allow yourself to simply be held. Jesus, thank you for staying with me tonight. Thank you for understanding the feelings I have struggled to put into words. Thank you for seeing the tears that no one else noticed. Thank you for carrying what I can no longer carry by myself. Thank you for remaining near when the house feels quiet. Thank you for reminding me that I am never forgotten. Jesus, stay with me tonight. Stay with me in the quiet. Stay with me in the unknown. Stay with me when old fears try to speak. Stay with me when memories come and go. Stay with me until my heart remembers that your love never changes. Stay with me until fear loses its voice. Stay with me until peace becomes stronger than worry. Stay with me until morning comes. And if sleep arrives slowly tonight, let me remember that you are still here, watching over me, protecting me, comforting me, loving me with a love that never grows tired, a love that never turns away, a love that never sleeps. In peace, I will lie down and rest. In peace, I will release this day. In peace, I will entrust tomorrow into your hands. For you alone make me dwell in safety. And as the night becomes softer and quieter around you, may your breathing become gentle. May your heart feel lighter. May your soul discover rest. Because even if the world becomes quiet around you, heaven never stops watching over you. And Jesus remains faithfully by your side tonight. You are loved. You are safe. You are not alone. You can rest now,